The story you are about to witness is based on true events. To protect the privacy of those involved, names and images have been altered. Prepare to be captivated by a tale of love, transformation, and the unexpected twists that life can bring. The bustling streets of New York City have always been a melting pot of cultures, and within this grand mosaic, two families stood at the pinnacle of power and influence. The sheik, a man of tradition, held not only wealth but also the respect of his people, while the American tycoon, driven by innovation, was a symbol of ambition. Their paths, though worlds apart, converged in an extraordinary way. An arranged marriage was more than just a union. It was a bridge between two realms, tradition and modernity, East and West. Little did anyone suspect, it would also become a tale of compassion and emotional discovery. Such unions, born from practicality, often carry an air of inevitability. Yet, for the sheik's daughter, it was more than duty. It was a chance to honor her family's legacy while silently yearning for empathy and inspiration. Her groom, a man accustomed to corporate boardrooms and relentless negotiations, saw the arrangement as just another deal. His father had assured him this would bolster the family's global influence, and he obliged, though with a heart devoid of romance. From the outside, the arrangement seemed flawless, a perfect merger of empires. Beneath the surface, however, emotions stirred unpredictably. The bride wondered if she would ever be seen for who she truly was, beyond the cultural veils and family expectations. The groom, shielded by his confidence, believed he was too clever to be surprised. Yet, as often happens in life, assumptions can be the breeding ground for the unexpected. This wasn't just about wealth or power. It was about two individuals carrying the weight of their family's legacies. The sheik's daughter, veiled not just in fabric but in mystery, embodied grace and quiet strength. The groom, driven by pride, dismissed the possibility of anything extraordinary in her. It was this quiet tension, unspoken yet palpable, that would set the stage for something far greater than either of them imagined. Life has a peculiar way of connecting dots that seem unrelated. The sheik's daughter knew that compassion and understanding were virtues that transcended borders. Yet, she also knew that winning her husband's heart would take more than just patience. It would require a quiet defiance of expectations. Her journey was about to begin, though the road ahead was clouded with uncertainty. For the groom, the idea of romance seemed misplaced in such a union. His father's pragmatic reasoning left little room for emotional considerations. Yet, as the days approached, he couldn't ignore a faint sense of unease. He told himself it was just the weight of responsibility, not realizing it was the quiet whisper of destiny. As the families finalized the details, the sheik's daughter prepared herself for a life that demanded both courage and grace. The groom, unaware of what lay ahead, focused solely on the grand expectations placed upon him. Neither could foresee how this journey would transform their understanding of love, compassion, and the essence of true partnership. First impressions, they say, are everything. For the sheik's daughter, her appearance was a deliberate reflection of her cultural roots. Her burqa, intricately embroidered and covering her mouth and nose, was a testament to her values. Yet, paired with thick-rimmed glasses, it painted a picture of simplicity. To her groom, who thrived in a world of polished suits and charming smiles, she seemed unremarkable, an afterthought in the grand scheme of the marriage arrangement. The groom's dismissive glance at their first meeting revealed more than he intended. It wasn't cruelty, but a subtle arrogance born of his world. A world where beauty was loud, confident, and undeniable. He barely noticed her quiet demeanor or the grace in her movements. Instead, he saw only what was on the surface, missing the depth that lay beneath. It was the kind of oversight that would soon haunt his memory. For the bride, his indifference wasn't surprising. She had prepared herself for this moment, knowing that her outward appearance would not immediately inspire admiration. But behind her reserved expression was a mind that observed everything. The way he straightened his tie, the impatience in his tone, and even the fleeting moments of kindness he didn't realize he showed. Compassion was her strength, and she held on to it like a secret weapon. It's strange how the simplest details can linger. The groom later recalled how her voice, soft yet steady, carried a sense of calm he couldn't quite place. Her words were carefully chosen, her tone respectful yet firm. Though he didn't dwell on it at the time, something about her presence began to stir questions he wasn't ready to answer. As days passed, their interactions remained formal, almost transactional. He was polite but distant, assuming there was little to discover about her. She, on the other hand, observed him with quiet curiosity, searching for glimpses of the man beneath the layers of confidence and formality. Empathy, she believed, was the key to understanding him, even if he couldn't yet see her for who she truly was. The bride's understated elegance was a contrast to the groom's world of excess. She represented a quiet defiance of the expectations that surrounded them. In her simplicity was a power he couldn't recognize yet, and in his guarded demeanor, she saw potential, though he remained oblivious to it. Their dynamic was a silent dance of contrasts, with neither fully aware of the story they were beginning to write together. Life has a way of challenging assumptions when you least expect it. The groom, so sure of his own perceptions, would soon realize that appearances are but a fraction of the story. The bride, with her quiet strength, carried the weight of a truth he had yet to discover. And as the wedding day drew closer, the air between them buzzed with possibilities neither could yet comprehend. The days leading up to the wedding were a whirlwind of opulence and tradition. Lavish decorations adorned the grand venue, blending Middle Eastern elegance with Western sophistication. To the groom, it felt like an elaborate business event. Meticulous planning, high stakes, and little room for error. He played his role, ensuring every detail met the family's expectations, yet his heart remained untouched by the romance of it all. For the bride, the preparations were an intricate dance between honoring her heritage and stepping into a foreign world. She walked the line gracefully, making quiet decisions that reflected both her culture and her subtle rebellion against stereotypes. Beneath her composed exterior, however, she couldn't ignore the tension that simmered with each passing day. Her groom's aloofness was evident, yet she chose to focus on the bigger picture, a union that could bring about harmony and understanding. Their interactions during this period were brief and formal, like two colleagues working on the same project without any personal connection. The groom avoided lingering too long in her presence, finding excuses to immerse himself in logistical matters. Meanwhile, the bride observed him with a quiet curiosity, noting his meticulousness and the fleeting moments when his serious demeanor softened. Those rare glimpses of humanity gave her hope, though she kept it to herself. Tension built in small, almost imperceptible ways. A misplaced word here, a hurried glance there. It was as if the universe conspired to keep them from truly seeing each other. Yet, in these unspoken moments, there was an undercurrent of possibility. The bride's calm resolve contrasted sharply with the groom's restless energy, creating a dynamic that neither fully understood but both felt deeply. The families, blissfully unaware of the underlying friction, pressed on with the grand plans. Friends and relatives marveled at the union, convinced it was a match made in heaven. But behind the scenes, the bride and groom wrestled with their own doubts and insecurities. For the groom, it was a question of whether duty could ever lead to happiness. For the bride, it was a matter of whether her compassion and patience could break through his guarded exterior. Amid the hustle and bustle, the bride found solace in small acts of kindness, thanking the staff, adjusting a decoration, or offering a warm smile to a child who wandered into the chaos. These moments, though unnoticed by most, hinted at her true character. The groom, on the other hand, buried himself in tasks, seeking control over an event that felt increasingly out of his hands. Yet, even in his frustration, he couldn't ignore the quiet grace with which she navigated the same storm. As the final days approached, the tension between them felt almost tangible. It wasn't anger or resentment, but something far more complex, a mix of curiosity, fear, and the faintest hint of hope. Neither could predict the transformation that awaited them, but both sensed that the wedding day would be more than just a ceremony. It would be a turning point in ways they couldn't yet fathom. The grand day had arrived, with the world watching in awe of the spectacle that was their wedding. The ceremony was a dazzling fusion of cultures, a testament to the unity of two powerful families. Yet, amidst the opulence and tradition, all eyes were on the bride, veiled in mystery. As she approached the altar, whispers rippled through the crowd, curious about the woman behind the burqa. The groom stood tall, his expression unreadable, but his mind was consumed by questions he had never dared to voice. The moment she reached the altar, the air grew thick with anticipation. The officiant's voice faded into the background as the bride reached for her veil. With deliberate grace, she lifted it, revealing a face so breathtaking it seemed almost otherworldly. Her features, framed by cascading dark hair, radiated a beauty that was both regal and disarming. The groom's composure faltered, his carefully constructed facade cracking as he struggled to process the transformation before him. But it wasn't just her physical beauty that left the groom speechless. It was the confidence in her gaze. Her eyes, free of the glasses she had always worn, sparkled with an intelligence and depth he had failed to notice. In that instant, he realized how much he had underestimated her, how blind he had been to the person behind the veil. It wasn't just a revelation. It was a reckoning, a moment that forced him to confront his own prejudices. The crowd, too, was stunned into silence, their murmurs replaced by an almost reverent awe. The bride, unshaken by the collective reaction, carried herself with the poise of someone who knew her worth. She met her groom's astonished gaze with a subtle smile, a silent acknowledgement of the power she now held. For the first time, he saw her not as a duty or an obligation, but as an equal, perhaps even someone he could admire. As the ceremony continued, the groom found himself unable to focus on the words being spoken. His mind raced with a mixture of guilt, admiration, and a newfound curiosity about the woman he was about to marry. The bride, meanwhile, remained steady, her confidence serving as a quiet reminder of the strength she had carried all along. It was a moment of balance, a shift in dynamics that neither of them could ignore. By the time the vows were exchanged, the groom's heart was no longer indifferent. Each word she spoke resonated with a sincerity that caught him off guard. It was as if, in that brief span of time, the foundations of their relationship had been rebuilt. The bride's revelation wasn't just about beauty. It was about presence, about claiming her space in a world that had underestimated her. As the ceremony concluded and the couple walked back down the aisle together, the groom's mind was a whirlwind of emotions. He had entered the day expecting a transaction, but he was leaving with a story, one he hadn't anticipated but couldn't wait to unravel. And though the day was far from over, one thing was certain. The journey they were about to embark on would be unlike anything either of them had imagined. The days following the wedding unfolded like chapters in a story neither of them could have predicted. The bride, now unburdened by the veil that once defined her, revealed layers of brilliance that left her husband in awe. She stepped into his world of corporate boardrooms and global negotiations with an ease that surprised even the most seasoned executives. Her ideas were sharp, her presence commanding, and her ability to inspire those around her was unmatched. Compassion, it turned out, was her superpower, earning her both respect and admiration. For the groom, it was a humbling experience. He had spent years believing he was at the peak of his game, only to realize that his new wife brought something invaluable to the table. Her perspective was fresh, her strategies transformative, and her empathy disarmed even the most rigid minds. She didn't just contribute to his empire, she elevated it. Slowly but surely, the walls he had built around his heart began to crumble, replaced by something far deeper than admiration, a profound respect. Their partnership extended beyond the confines of the office. At home, she brought warmth to a space that had once felt cold and transactional. Her ability to balance strength with tenderness was a revelation to him. He found himself drawn not just to her beauty, but to the way she listened, understood, and inspired those around her. Romance, he realized, wasn't just about grand gestures. It was about the quiet, consistent ways she made him feel seen and valued. The transformation in their relationship didn't go unnoticed. Friends and family, who had once been skeptical of the union, now marveled at the synergy between them. Together, they became a symbol of what true partnership could look like. a blend of intellect, compassion, and unwavering support. For the groom, every day became an opportunity to learn from her, to challenge his own assumptions, and to grow into the kind of man worthy of her brilliance. The bride's ability to navigate the complexities of their lives with grace was nothing short of inspiring. She managed to honor her cultural roots while embracing the challenges of a modern marriage. In doing so, she taught her husband the value of empathy and the importance of seeing beyond the surface. She wasn't just his wife. She was his teacher, his partner, and, most importantly, his equal. As time passed, their bond deepened, built on a foundation of trust and mutual respect. The groom, who once saw the marriage as a duty, now found himself grateful for the chance to walk this journey with her. She had shown him that love isn't about perfection. It's about growth, understanding, and the courage to embrace the unexpected. And in doing so, she became the source of his greatest inspiration. Though their journey was just beginning, one thing was clear. They were no longer two individuals bound by obligation. They were a team, united by a shared vision and a love that defied the odds. And as they stood side by side, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, the groom couldn't help but marvel at the extraordinary woman who had forever changed his life. What would you do if life challenged everything you thought you knew about love? This story isn't just about an arranged marriage. It's about breaking stereotypes, finding beauty in the unexpected, and discovering that the heart sees far more than the eyes ever could. Does this resonate with you? Have you ever had a moment where your assumptions were shattered in the best possible way? Share your story in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. If this tale moved you as much as it did us, don't keep it to yourself. Hit that like button, share this video with someone who loves a good emotional story, and make sure you're subscribed to our channel. And don't forget to activate the notifications. There are more inspiring stories just like this one coming your way. Let's continue to explore love, compassion, and the power of human connection together.